welcome to New Hampshire Colony, founded in 1623. This, you may ask, is my horse Autumn, which horses were used abundantly for transportation back in New Hampshire Colony. And why don't I tell you a little bit about our history? Now, New Hampshire always had a smooth start until the Cocheco Massacre, which actually happened in Dover. Our colony always had healthy relations with the Abenaki, Malisite, and Pennacook. In 1689, our tribes banded together to end the tribes of the Indians banded together to end all the villages that were being raided by us New Hampshires. The massacre happened in Dover, and the local Indians showed no mercy whenever kidnapping almost all the militia people and their families. Their families were usually spared but sold in Quebec. Actually, the major, an old elderly major that used to band together to defecate the tribes, was actually Richard Waldron, which was slain after being cut across his stomach countless amount of times, and then all of his family members, but his daughter was actually slain, but all his other family members were sold in Quebec. After this, life in New Hampshire surely settled down, to say the least, but our first colonial governor was actually Bennington Wentworth, who served from 1741 to 1766, and unfortunately died 4 years later in 1770. Now you may ask where exactly New Hampshire is located. New Hampshire was located along the coast of North America and of the Atlantic coast, and it was bordered by the colonies of Vermont and Massachusetts. Our colony was founded by John Mason, and he came from Hampshire, England, and named the New Hampshire after England, the place in England itself. He actually served in our governance too. The terrain in New Hampshire is actually pretty rocky, so which led wheat and stuff not to be grown as much, but it was still grown quite a bit and led to other things like pumpkin and squash to be grown. Daily life in New Hampshire usually included houses, and of course the housewives doing regular work and the men out doing carpentry, hunting, and all that. The children usually played games around and in New Hampshire towns, and life was fairly normal and peaceful there. Housewives also did a lot of cooking for their husbands, as they always expected stuff to be done by the time they got home. And one of the things that every housewife in any colony cooked was bread, which is what I'll be introducing today, is bread and cinnamon butter. And sorry for being out of breath, me and Autumn took quite a walk, huh, Bess? After all of our horses are nicely put away, it is time to go home and bake bread. Alright, so welcome back, and now we're going to take 4 cups of warm water, and we're going to start baking our bread, and we're going to pour the 4 cups into a bowl. And we're going to dissolve the yeast, which this is yeast. 2 tablespoons of yeast is what we're going to use. We're going to dissolve it in here with 3/4 of white sugar. Now we are going to add our 2 tablespoons of yeast, instant yeast, and our sugar. 3/4 cups white sugar, and 2 of these. We have dissolved the yeast and the sugar into the warm water. We are going to add 1/2 cup of oil and 3 1/2 tablespoons of salt. Into this mixture, and then we are going to mix it to dissolve it. to add the oil. And stir to combine. Now, as I'm transferring this mixture, you may be wondering, like, what was New Hampshire Colony most known for? Well, New Hampshire Colony was most known for actually livestock farming and shipbuilding. Captain John Mason originally wanted the colony to be known for, a fishing colony, a new fishing colony, which did not work out. Unlike the southern colonies, New Hampshire is actually categorized as a New England colony. Now, New England colonies are actually known for having their long and cold winters and their mild summers, unlike down south where they had, warmer winters, and not as harsh winters, I should say. Now, back to the bread making, we are going to add 5 cups of flour to this mixture, about a little bit at a time, and then mix for about 3 to 5 minutes, and I will have this on a time lapse, so you do not have to sit here and watch. Now with about 5-6 cups, still more to go, and since the dough's getting tougher, we're going to be adding it to the mixing bowl, and then it will be used with the mixer. Now I know this is not about a colony, but New Hampshire is actually one of the first colonies to become a state and declare free from England. Just a fun fact. Now that we are done mixing, we are going to knead the dough on a floured surface, which you cannot see, but there is a floured surface right here, to make the dough nice and smooth, to get everything out. This recipe also makes 4 loaves of bread, so there's gonna be a lot. I will also put the kneading of the dough on a time lapse so you don't have to sit through. Now we are going to make cinnamon butter, and we have 1 stick of room temperature butter, and then 1/4 cup of powdered sugar. And we are going to have 1/4 teaspoon, or I'm pretty sure it's 3/4 teaspoon of cinnamon, which we have right here. I will most likely have to double this recipe since I am making this for the whole class. 1, 2, 3. And then lastly but not least, we're going to add 3 1/2 tablespoons of honey. I also forgot to say I am making this while the dough rises for our bread, our New Hampshire bread. Another thing that was important in New Hampshire were whales, because they used whales for oil, and oil, powered lights and stuff then. New Hampshire was a pretty laid-back colony. You don't hear much about it. And right now it is a very not as much known state, if that makes sense. It's a very underrated state though. It's very pretty there. Now, since there are so many of us, I am tripling the batch, making a lot of butter. So I will put that on time lapse too of the being mixed. After mixing my butter, I just jarred it up, ready to take to school now. Now we're going to take the bread that was rising, and there's a lot of it. We're going to divide it into 4 pans. But first, we have to lightly grease each one with vegetable oil. Now that you have the dough to be put in them. Oh my goodness. Put some flour down for the dough. Since the dough is very sticky. Since the dough is very sticky, we're opening the flour and putting it down so the dough does not stick to me. And you can lightly coat your hands, which I like to do, so the dough does not stick to you either. Now we have, we're good. Now we have our dough. We're going to divide equally into 4 sections. So, just gonna rip and roll. So now we have our 4 equal sections of dough, and we're going to put them into the pans. So the smallest pan, I would say, is this one. So this is why we're going to put the smallest loaf in. I'm going to take some from another loaf and spread it in. Into glass pans. Glass pans are heavy. Not only in New Hampshire, but bread was common in all states.
Are you in good hands?
Now we let the dough that is in the pans rise for a little bit until they are a little bit underneath or over. Alright, so now it has been 30 minutes and they have risen enough. And yes, I took off my apron. It was actually getting too dirty. So now we have preheated the oven to 350. And we're going to stick these in the oven for 35 minutes. And here's our finished products. Ignore that, and then I'll put butter on top of them too, to give them a little flavor. And here's our butter I'll be bringing to school in our mason jar. Thank you for listening about New Hampshire Colony and baking bread with me.